a video where I'm adjusting the camera to start off with. A video on fried chicken. So I need to have a faff around with fried chicken for a function that's coming up in the future. So if I'm faffing around with something, I might as well make a video. And then I've got a record of what I've done, and so I can look back on it, and also out of general interest. And if I don't film something, it generally works out really well. And then I'm like, oh, how wish I filmed that. So let's have a faff around. I need to do fried chicken. I need to do like they want to do soul food for a function. They want mac and cheese and fried chicken. So I'm going to do like a southern fried type of fried chicken. I've done mac and cheese. I've made a video. It was very nice. It was lovely actually. It was lovely. So I'll just simply use that recipe for that, but just make it a little bit less rich. Because I want a cheap function. But I need to do fried chicken. I've done chicken wings. There's a video. They're very nice. But I kind of thought we need to do chicken legs because it needs to be a cheap function rather than chicken breast. And I prefer legs as well. So it needs to be deep fried. So cooking chicken legs from raw in deep fried, that's kind of quite a speciality type of thing to do. I don't think with the equipment that I've got available at the function place, I don't think that's kind of viable. So we need to cook the chickens beforehand, and then dredge them in a seasoned flour, and then deep fry them and kind of do them that way. So I've got chicken legs. They're about, how much were they? They were £1.99 for 5, so they're about 40 pence each. So that's pretty cheap. So I've done three things. I've left one whole, which is already in this bit of stock here. This is some stock, leftover stock. So it's what I'll do is I'll season that. But that's what's going to cook the chicken. So I've left one chicken leg with the bone in. I'll get it out. So I left it in with one with the bone in. We'll cook that. That'll take a little bit longer. And then I've taken the thigh bone out of this one. So the drumstick bone is still in it, but I've taken the thigh bone out. So I've just taken that little bone out there. Is that the right one? Yeah. So taking that little bone out, just bone that one out. So I kind of thought that would be kind of quite interesting. And then I boned that one out entirely. So I've taken the bone out entirely. So I boned it out. I've even done a video on boning out chickens before. So that was that. That was that. So I boned it out, and then that's a flat bit of chicken, which I think I don't know if some people are a bit funny about eating bones of chickens and things, aren't they? So, but anyway, and then it also kind of affects the cooking time and all that kind of stuff. So I've done three, and then I can decide which one I kind of want to do. Quite like the idea of taking the thigh bone out. I think that's kind of quite interesting, but we'll see how it turns out. Certainly need to leave the skin on, and I need to find out. Just quick wash your hands. But I also need the chicken skin to be left on the chicken. So I need to know that if I'm cooking it in some stock, that the skin and the fat's not can disappear. That's where a lot of the flavour is with chicken, and certainly southern fried chicken. So cook those in a little bit of stock. I can't do it on camera because I've got other things on the stove. I'm cooking beef stock, so for another video that I'm faffing around with. So I'll bring this up to the boil. Add a bit of salt. I don't think it'd be salty enough. About that much. Might need to add a little bit of water. And then we'll cook them through so they're nice and tender, and then we'll cool them down a little bit, and then we'll dredge them in some flour. And I think we'll use what I've got. So what we've got in a cupboard, because I'm not going to go out and buy anything, because I'm going to eat these myself, so I'm not that bothered. So we've got a little bit of leftover curry powder. And we've got some we've got some cumin, we've got some coriander, so it should be fine. Yes, we've got some cumin, some coriander, we've got some turmeric, so we can make a bit of a spice mix. But I need to sort out my spice box now because bits of spice have gone everywhere. But anyway, so we've got some stuff, so I don't need to buy anything more. We can just use it what we have, and just need some flour. So get this down on camera while I remember. I always find it a bit bizarre when people use seasoned flour and when they just put a little bit of salt in. I find that quite bizarre. because the amount of salt that they put in the flour isn't really the right amount of salt that you would. So if you are dredging a chicken breast before you fry it in flour, people put a little bit of salt in the flour, and I'm kind of like, that's not enough salt for that amount of chicken. I think it's much better to season the chicken first, and then put it in season the chicken first with salt. So sprinkle your salt on your chicken, and then put it in the flour, and then fry it. And then you've actually, because you don't know how much salt has come out of the flour onto the chicken. So I always kind of think, season the chicken first, then put it in the flour, and then fry it, and then you know that you seasoned the chicken correctly with the right amount of salt. There's no guarantee that there's going to be the salt's evenly dispersed within the flour, or it's going to pick up enough of the salt that's in the flour, or you put enough salt in the flour. So anyway, that was just a thought that's always been in my head, and it came from, I worked with a lad, and he insisted on mixing his fine white pepper and salt, because he said it was quicker to season things that way. So when he was preparing vegetables and cooking vegetables to order in the restaurant, he could just have his container of salt and pepper, and then just season things with that one container, rather than having to take 2 containers. Which, from a speed point of view, if you've got 2 containers, it's that. Where if you've got 1 container to season something, it's that. So it saves you on the movement. But I was like, yeah, but you can't control what ratio of pepper you're putting on salt. Put salt and pepper on, because it's, even if you put the equal amount of salt and pepper in, you can't, like, over time, every time you agitate that container of salt and pepper, the salt's gonna, whichever way, either the salt or the pepper is going to go down to the bottom of the container when you agitate it, because that's what happens. You know, either the salt or the pepper is going to go down to the bottom of the container, and you're going to be left with either salt and pepper on top. I can't remember which way around it is. But if you think about when you're panning for gold, and the heavier goes down to the bottom, so the gold always goes down to the bottom of the pan, of the thingamajig pan, the panning pan. I'm sure there's a better name. And the gold goes down to the bottom. So every time you agitate that salt and pepper pot that's got salt and pepper in, the salt goes down to the bottom and the pepper's on top. So you're never really seasoning correctly, because the ratio of salt to pepper will be out. So it's better, even though it takes you longer to take some salt and season, and take some pepper and season, it's better because you're much more controlled. So, but anyway, that was him and this is me. And I'm doing this. I've got no clue what he's doing. But anyway, there we go. So, I won't be putting any seasoning in the flour, because I will have added salt. Let's see, 8 minutes already, and I haven't even done anything. So I'll season the stock that we're cooking the chicken in, and then that seasoning will get into the chicken. So we don't need to season the flour. I'll just dust in flour that will have some curry powder and other things in it. But there we go. So we'll cook those until tender, up to the boil, slow simmer. The one that have been completely boned out will take less time, and then those other 2 will take slightly longer. But anyway, that's what we'll do. Right, those cooked. Let's pull them out. Nice and tender. I'm going to dredge them while they're still warm, because I think they will, a lot more of the flour will stick to them. So if we kind of look at this kind of size differences, we just need to kind of decide what people are going to be. I can just open that now. That can live out of the way. So this video won't come out until I've done this function. I'm going to not burn my counter. Somewhere it's not going to burn my countertop. So you can see how they've kind of looked like the shrunk. So 200 grams of flour, and then this is, shows this cumin. So teaspoon of cumin, teaspoon of coriander, well, heaps. I don't think I'm not going to use the curry powder that I've got, because I might just fancy a curry in the week. I've just got enough left. but I've got plenty of cumin and coriander. I think 2 teaspoons of each. But I would just use the mild curry powder, I think, if I'm honest. I think you can do a really spicy blend. I know people that it's like a family recipes that people use and all that kind of stuff. And well guarded secrets, but that's up to them. Just a mild curry powder will be fine. And then so that looks a more generous portion than that. So I think people will be happy with that. Not necessarily happy with that, but they don't have to deal with a bone. So we'll be dredging these a couple of times. What will happen is the flour will take out some of the moisture. We'll put it on a dry plate. Oh look, creating lots of washing up. So we'll put it on a dry plate, and then we'll probably go in for a second dredge later on. So that one's kind of come out alright, but there's probably no point boning that little bit of bone out. It's probably just best off leaving the bone in. But we'll kind of see. Might have to do a leg and a wing when we do it in the proper function. We'll have to see. But for some reason the flour's stuck better to the one that I boned out. So we'll leave that to cool down for a bit in the dredge, and what will happen is the dredge will stick to the chicken, and then we'll give it another dredge, and then we'll fry it in some oil a bit later on. But we'll just let that cool. That's kind of what's going to happen. It'll turn into a bit of a batter type of thing, but we'll see. The same thing I do with the chicken wings, but I might end up having to give chicken leg and a chicken wing, like that, and some mac and cheese. Depends how much they want to spend at this function. People don't want to spend a lot, in my experience. They want a lot for very little. So much more flour on that. So I need dredging a couple of times, but I don't know. We'll see. Cheaper to give them more mac and cheese, but we'll see how we go. They have cooled, so let's give them a second dusting. See, that's better on the bottom, but we'll get another dusting in the flour, and then that'll be like a double layer, so they'll fry better. And then we've got some old oil that I'm not bothered about destroying by cooking some fried chicken in there. My thoughts are, we'll see how these turn out, but I think we'll have to leave the legs whole, and people will just have to mess around with a bone. But it'll be nice and tender, so we'll just kind of see how it works. I don't really want to do a batter that's a batter for the fried chicken. Like I know, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's a flour and then a like batter type of thing. I don't really want to do that. I think it's I need a tea towel now. I think just a coating of flour just works just as well, but it needs to be relatively thick. So we will use the wooden spoon trick to see if the oil is hot enough. So if you put the wooden spoon in and it starts to fizz, then the oil is hot enough. It's not hot enough yet, so it just needs a little bit more. So we'll pause and go back when the oil's hot enough. Right, I reckon this will be hot enough. What we're going to put in first, I don't think it really matters. Let's put all three in. I've also got to think about space when I'm cooking things. Let me put something else in. Yes, I do. Probably overcrowded the pan, but it'll be fine. So we'll cook these. They don't need cooking all the way through. All they really need is crisping, and then eating all the way through. So we'll see what they turn out like. But I'll pause. You don't need to see frying chicken, dear. Although there will be a channel on YouTube that does specialise in just things frying in deep fat, and I'm sure it's very relaxing to watch. Right, so I think the boned out bit of chicken's ready. It's starting to float, so that's a good sign. You just need to get off the excess fat. It's not crispy. That's getting there. I quite like the fact, that's the boned out one, I quite like the fact that that's all kind of gone crispy on the bottom. That's kind of quite interesting. That's okay. So it's alright, is that? Right, we'll wait until those two are just ready, and then we'll pull them out and we'll cool them slightly. I don't want to burn them out, and then we'll see what they taste like. But I really do like that, like the boned out bit, like it's gone crunchy, it's gone crispy as that. So that's something we certainly might do, to leave the legs whole. You know, it's just not happened with the whole leg. But we live and learn, don't we? We've got to. What necessarily works for someone else, KFC, won't necessarily work for me. So, right. I reckon those are going to be done. We'll turn the oil off. Just in time, eh? And I'll put a lid on that. And I think I'll just pause and get it out of the way. I don't want to knock it over. I don't really like messing around with hot fat. Right, I've taken a picture as well, so let's just have a look. Nice and juicy. Nice and juicy. Nice and tender that it just pulls apart. Mmm. Oh. That's good. If I fancy boning it out, that's okay, but it's not a huge portion. Maybe a leg and a wing. We'll kind of see. But leg's a bit boring, isn't it? But that's interesting, isn't it? Look at that. Those knobbly bits just make it just that little bit more interesting. So let's try that. I think that's the one. That's the one. Those knobbly bits just make it interesting. It's not greasy. I think that's because we pre-cooked it and rendered out that excess fat. Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. So, no, tastes good. I'm not going to make it too spicy, but there we go. I don't need to. I think that's a success. Nice and crispy that. I don't know about serving it how. It kind of needs to be cooked and then served straight away. There's like 50 people. It's actually going to be quite difficult, but I'm kind of see. But there we go. That works. Might have to do a leg and a wing, but We'll see. Success.